Why are Impact so consistent? Why are Team Impact so consistent? This is the question that's been on everyone's lips the last few days and weeks in the Call of Duty scene. Because Call of Duty has always been known as an on-the-day title, meaning that anyone can win on their given day if they step up on the last day of an event. So Impact have kind of proved that completely wrong by being so consistent, and they've not really looked very weak at all. They've always looked in control at every event, even at Call of Duty Championships, where they lost. Where they lost in the winners bracket to Envious. A lot of people still predicted them to come back and win the final, and they did. I mean, it was really close. I mean, don't get me wrong, it could have went either way. But I just think like when it comes to the kind of clutch moments, that Impact have just been coming up big for some reason. They actually started off their run at MLG Dallas at the first event on the MLG season, which everyone was getting so hyped about. There was about 200 teams, the biggest competitive Call of Duty event to date, and that was their first event when it was a huge win for them. They only dropped 2 maps, which is insane. And then they came over to Europe 2 weeks later and won EGL9 pretty comfortably as well. I mean, when I say pretty comfortably, they went to the last map 5-5 quite a few times. Against Fariko Dragons they went there, against Cloud. I'm not sure, I think that was it. They went to the last map against EQ in their very first game. So if you think about it, MLG Dallas, they only dropped 2 maps the whole event. At EGL in their first match they dropped 2 maps. First match. So I mean, EGL was no like walkover for them. Obviously there's a few different effects that were over them that event. Maybe they kind of underestimated the team they were playing against. There's jet lag and stuff like that taken into account. I know for a fact that on the Thursday night that Miracles was so smashed, and I think the whole of the Fariko team were pretty smashed. So I think they were probably hungover when they played EQ, so that might have affected them. But they ended up pulling out the win, which is what matters at the end of the day. So yeah. And then they flew back from EGL9, and then a few days later they had the Call of Duty World Championships, which was obviously the most important thing. Forget MLG Dallas, forget EGL9, forget UMG St. Louis shortly after. The big thing was the Call of Duty World Championships, which they obviously came out and won first place, win £100,000 each, $100,000 each per player. And then, as I said before, they had UMG St. Louis last weekend to complete the 4-peat. That's what it's been called, the 4-peat. I don't know if you've seen the reaction video when they're actually playing at UMG St. Louis. Miracles and Killa and stuff are all like, give me that 4-peat. But yeah. When this squad was created shortly after UMG Chicago, and after going through numerous different public fallouts, it looked like the squad had been moments away from splitting up on many occasions. But despite that, the team stuck together for thick and thin, and with the help of Fariko particularly, Brainiac, and the help of all the Fariko management and whatnot, they built some form of dynasty and one of the most consistent rosters to date on Call of Duty. And on paper this team didn't look spectacular, like I said before. Even behind the scenes there was too many problems for this roster to be successful. Surely. So if that being said, it's absolutely inconceivable that a team with so many problems and struggles have grinded through the pain and it has paid off. It's pretty motivational when you think about it that prior to MLG Dallas, none of these players had won a major event at all. None of them had won a major event. To then stroll past the competition and only drop 2 maps at the most competitive Call of Duty event in the history of the game is mind-blowing. They only dropped 2 maps in MLG. But why is that? Why are they that consistent? At UMG Chicago, the Fariko roster of Killa, Karma, 2Quick and John placed 3rd. A decent placement. And this was obviously not probably one of the least competitive events. Well, it was the first event of the whole of Black Ops 2. A lot of teams wanted to win it, but the team obviously wanted more than 3rd place. So for 2Quick and John, they wanted to win so much, so they decided to leave the roster. At the time, both of these players were considered 2 of the best in the game and the 2 best in the team, and they still are considered 2 of the best players on the world right now. And when they left the Fariko roster, it looked like curtains to another potentially successful lineup. I mean, they were known as the 2 best players in that team. To a lot of people, even their own players were kind of like, oh, this isn't good. So fast forward a few weeks, and after a few changes, I think they got Rick in at one point. They finalised the roster with Parasite Miracles replacing the duo of 2Quick and John. So as I said before, on paper this team wasn't as good as the team before, and many predicted it wouldn't last like the previous team. And especially with Parasite, Killer and Karma's outspoken personalities potentially clashing, and it did like many times. You could see it on their streams, you could see it on Twitter, it clashed numerous times. And when I think this team has been so successful is with all the problems they've had, they've kind of got through them, and in time this has brought them closer, and now they've all kind of got a better understanding of each other as individuals, because before it kind of seemed like they were at each other's necks constantly, and the last few weeks, obviously with winning they're going to be a bit more happy, but they kind of seem like they're more of a family as such. They're obviously all highly skilled players, and their understanding of the game is what I think makes them better than everyone else. Especially in the hard point game mode, they seem ahead of the game in terms of smarts, but that then brings up the question, will they eventually get caught up? Will the competition eventually catch up to them? Much like Optic on Modern Warfare 3, a lot of teams were a bit behind Optic. A lot of people would say that Optic were ahead of the game in terms of their whole map knowledge and whatnot. And they eventually were caught up. Obviously, at EGL9, TCM managed to dethrone them. So that brings up the question, will Impact eventually lose? But like a lot of people are going to be saying, I don't think they will lose. I honestly cannot see them losing. And I can just see them getting further and further ahead with their dedication and the amount of time they're able to put into the game, along with going through a lot together. And I honestly think they are the perfect mesh of players and playstyles. I honestly believe it is the perfect team. So what do you guys think? I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Why are they so successful, and will they continue to be successful? So thanks a lot guys, thanks for listening, and see y'all later.
Hardpoint contested. Lightning strike coordinates received. Inbound. Keep pressing the fight. We're taking it to them. Hardpoint contested. Shut up. Movement. Reload. Let's get moving. He's gone. Concussion out. Hardpoint identified. Hostiles have the hard point. Press down. Target spotted. Wanna get paid? Moving. Hardpoint is ours. Operation complete. Nice job, grunts.